Game day. So this is going to be fun. As normal, I think it's really important for us to interact with each other. So I would like to get a couple aha moments. Again, thank you guys for having such a fun Facebook group. So many people are saying the things that they're using already. They're asking good questions. Everyone's doing their homework. So super helpful that you guys are doing that. A couple things I would love to hear from you guys, some of the things that you're already shifting, some of the things you're already implementing. I had a couple people send me some Loom videos of them actually using some of this stuff already on the sales calls, which is amazing, right? And Eli Wild talks about like leaders don't go fifth, they don't go third, they don't go second, right? Leaders go first. You got to go for it. You got to try things. And so it's so awesome that you guys are actually implementing this stuff right away. So I would love to hear for some of you guys, like what are some things that are standing out to you, some things that are useful, some things that you really love. And that's going to set the stage for today, because today is the juicy day. Eli Wild is going to unleash and show you some ninja tricks, and it's going to be really fun. But Giorgio, what are a couple things that has been really helpful for you so far?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I took from last session is pacing the call and setting, because I always thought of setting the stage or setting the frame, but actually setting the pace of the entire conversation. That's more than building rapport and stuff like that. I found that brilliant. And that's something that I personally started doing when I trained my team. So I started basically pacing the way the meeting will go, and also training them on how to pace during sales call. Again, I'm not really running any sales call myself right now, but it's amazing how this stuff works. And I've also noticed by reviewing some of my sales reps calls, the difference. They can have great rapport, but they pace the call in a way that now is always the member, basically stepping over them, and they have no chance to do anything. And if they just switch that, so that was truly powerful to me, and it's somewhat a subtle thing that is a game changer. So
it really is. It is a game changer. So the pacing that he's talking about is just controlling the speed of the call, right? So you want to control not just the speed of the call, but obviously the direction, like where you headed. So your questions control the direction of the call, or your frames control the direction, but pacing, that's controlling the speed of the call. And there's two really, really important, I'm glad Giorgio said that, because the reason you want to do that, there's two reasons you want to pace the call. Number one, the first reason you want to control the speed of the call is so you don't have to have these 90-minute calls. You don't have to have these super long calls. But the second reason, and maybe the more important reason, is if you're jumping in, I go, they go, I go, they go, you're controlling the speed, you're setting a pattern. And so if they're used to you kind of politely interrupting them towards the end of the call, if they start having some resistance, it's going to be really natural for you to interrupt them and to control the call at the end of the call, instead of waiting for the first time and trying to interrupt them when they give you your resistance. And it's the first time, 40 minutes in the call, it feels awkward for you. It feels apparent for them. They know what's happening, and you don't want that. You want all this below their perception threshold. They can't see it. So pacing is huge. So super awesome. Oliver, what's something that you have that you want to share with the family here?
Yeah, so just want to say this is an amazing training. I'm loving it here. Been wanting to do NLP for a very fucking long time, 7 years, and I really feel like this has unlocked another thing for me. Top sales guy this month, top sales guy last month, so doing really good, and it's really doing really well with a lot of the stuff. So one big thing, definitely, I posted about that in the group, was the timing. But what I always found was it's the one thing, and I don't even know if you said it, but it's one thing that I picked up, which is I would always kind of defuse a lot of the energy. And I'm doing like event sales at this point. I do event sales and then kind of like non-event sales. So it's very, very quick, half an hour, and it needs to be very, very quick. So getting a down payment, something like that. And with what this is doing is it's basically like telling them what they should believe. You pick up a little bit of a hint, and then you say, oh, well, that's that, right? And they say, yes. And that's so key on event sales, because it just means that you can just ride off the high of the event and get going, and you're already telling them what they should believe, and they're already in a high elevated state, and you're just, keeping that up throughout. So for me, that's I'm just smashing it. So if that makes sense, that's what I've learned.
It makes sense. And that's huge. And I'm so glad you said it, because that's really what the topic that Eli is going to be talking about today is, the belief and shifting a belief and the structure of a belief And we're going really NLPE today. We're going deep on these language patterns. And so he's going to show a lot just on that. You're going to really love today. But to get to today, needed those first 3 weeks, right? The order that we taught was really important. We taught that framework first because, yes, exactly. You guys are already typing in the structure of belief in the chat. Ben, thank you for doing that. The thing we needed first was the foundation, because we will listen to sometimes these calls and someone's like, hey, I did a hypnotic language pattern and I anchored my left hand. It's like, yeah, but the guy told you his mom had cancer and you just didn't even acknowledge it. Like, first, like, make sure you're present, make sure you're listening, make sure you're actually understanding where they're at. Like, be a human first, have the foundation first, have that framework first. And then when you add the stuff on top, it's incredible. And so really good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Kathy, good to see you.
Eli, how are you? Something that's been really helpful for me is just replacing like filler words with, oh, that's smart.
Mhm.
Oh, that makes sense. And just building that and having even those filler words have purpose. So that's been super helpful for me. And I feel far less awkward about it. So it's awesome.
That's it. And that's the more advanced like personality styling that Kathy's talking about, right? But you start feeding that, giving them that dopamine, you're giving them that food, and it becomes like this addicting pattern. One, it's good because it puts them in a resourceful state, so they're more likely to take action. The person who feels stupid, that makes mistakes all the time, that always has all these regrets about their decisions, is not likely to sign up. So you want the opposite of that, right? So you're guiding them to feel intelligent and reasonable. And so that's super important. That's one of the most important reasons. If they are in a better state, they're more likely to take that action. And the other idea is, if you're in agreement mode and it makes sense that you're doing that. Oh, I love that you have it. Oh, so you've done some of the research. Makes sense. Study after study shows this and that. You guys are in such a good agreement mode. At some point when you go, the only thing is I'm trying to figure out is like, why is this important for your company to do this, now instead of in Q3? And all of a sudden there's like, you're questioning them, they're going to fight back for that agreement again, right? Because they're like, hey, we're having 20 cool conversations, 20 cool compliments. All of a sudden you're questioning me. I want to fight back for that congruency. So you can leverage it later in the call too. So there's a few reasons why this works really well. I did promise you guys one thing, and I know Eli has so much planned for you today, but I promised you guys at the end of the last call, you guys asked me to share some of my call. And I told you one thing. I said, I don't get refunds anymore, because after I sign someone up, one of the things I'll do is I ask a couple questions at the end of the call. I ask why they're excited. And then I ask them why they decided to take action now. And that fills that void. I didn't share it with you, me asking that though. And I told you guys I would. So I'm going to share that because I promised I would. And then we're going to let Eli jump in. So let me share my computer sound. I'll show you this. And again, for context, I've gotten the credit card from this person. They just paid, $15,000, $16,000 for the product. And now I say something along the lines of, and I love, the best part about my job is I always get to connect and kind of know why people do what they do. Obviously it was a good decision. We talked about a few things that would be helpful for you. For you though, like what are like a couple of things you're most excited about? They'll tell me, and then I'll ask, and I love it. And I love that you're motivated, but why is this something that you're excited about now? And I ask it again about them telling me why now. So let me just share that really quickly. And by the way, some of you sent me recordings of you doing this like 2 hours after our last week's call, implementing this right away. And so really awesome that you guys are actually using this stuff. But let's just thumbs up. You guys can see my screen. Cool. Question where it's kind of like thumbs up. Can you guys hear that? This is obviously a good choice for you and good that you did it. But why did you decide to do this now and not wait 6 months or a year?
I mean, I just was inspired from the Miami one, and I've kind of tried to implement some of the things I learned, and it just felt like the next progression.
That wasn't the best answer in the world, was it? Remember, one of the best skills you guys can have and develop is being able to re-ask the same question if you didn't get an answer that you wanted. I asked a great question. It normally works, but he didn't give me like a very great answer. If you watch the replay, you'll see his answer was like, yeah, the event made me want to do it, and so I did it. But I want to go deeper because I really want to lock him in on his decision. That's it. And I agree with you, but I'm not quite hearing it because you could have progressed in a year from now. Why did you decide to do it now?
I just didn't want to waste any more time. I just kind of felt like,
Boom.
you know, I thought about it when I got home, and I definitely, wanted to get started making myself a little bit better.
That's it. And so now we have them, and now from there I guide them a little bit more, but that's an example of why you need to know why you're even asking the questions. If you don't know why you're asking the question, they might give you the wrong answer and you just jump to the next part of the script. That's the purpose and the power of understanding your foundation. Once you have that, you're going to be closing really high, helping a lot of people. And then if you want to be one of the best salespeople or just best communicators in the world, it's time for the fun stuff, the hypnotic language patterns. So Mr. Eli Wild, kick some butt.
Awesome, guys. So I'm really excited. To give you guys a little bit of context, obviously, as you all know, huge Tony Robbins fan. And I'd seen him at these events asking all these questions, digging in, doing these interventions, and he would reframe and change. And, I was just amazed at what he was doing. And so I would actually go to the events and I'd hit record on my phone, or like back in the day, 15 years ago, an actual tape recorder. I'd sit it by the stage and I'd record, and I'd go home and I'd transcribe everything that he said. I'd type it up. Thousands of hours I have literally spent transcribing what he said. And I would go back and I would highlight different questions. And I was like, what's going on here? And once I got into NLP, I read a book called Sleight of Mouth by Robert Dilts. It's actually pretty complex. So there's another book by Doug O'Brien called Understanding Sleight of Mouth. There's a book to help you understand a book. It's a complex subject when there's a book, and then a book to help you understand the book, and then a workbook to help you understand the book to understand the book. And so, all of these frames, and there's essentially 14 different language patterns that restructure a belief, the meaning of a belief. And so today, I've taught this before. Some of you have seen this before. I stayed up literally till 5 a.m. last night, restructuring some of it, because I know that when I teach it, I can give you the language patterns and the structure, but sometimes people don't know why they're saying what they're saying, even though they get the language pattern. So I want to take a step back. In today's session, we're going to go really a bit deeper into the understanding. I'm going to give you some tactical things that are super basic, but really, really powerful to understand up front. We're going to go into the structure of a belief, and I'm going to give you 3 or 4 of the actual language patterns. We're going to get into it. Before we even get to that, though, I want you to understand that there's external beliefs and there's internal beliefs. There's beliefs about your product, and then there's beliefs that are external, like time and money. So next week, we're going to get specifically into all the different language patterns, the stuff you really want around the beliefs, around spouse, around time, around money. And I'm going to give you unlimited amounts of exact things that you can do and say, tactical reframes that you can use to really reframe, ideally before the objection or even after it, but ideally before. You're going to create beliefs inside of the prospect that shift the meaning of your offer, of time, of money, of the need to ask for support. So we want to understand these limiting buying beliefs. And so before next week, we're going to get into all the different tactical stuff. I'm going to break down some of the framework, some of the understanding, help you shift some of your beliefs about what objections actually are. So the structure of a belief, and I know Ben put it in there, it's if then means. And so one of the things that I want to help you with throughout this program is I want to shift inside of your mind what you think a belief or an objection rather means. Shift your beliefs about what objections are. So some of you might even be getting this and saying, well, if they object, it means I did a bad job, or it means they're a terrible prospect, or it means God's punishing me. And so we want to get rid of that and make sure that you understand, first of all, that objections are just part of the process, and they're actually a good thing. If you get one thing out of this program, and if it was only to change your association to objections, to get excited and playful and warm, and to know that this is the place that you can actually help them, not by pushing them into a product, but by shifting the meaning they have around their own commitment, about what they value, about their vision. And so we can get them into alignment and really look beneath the structure. Next week, again, we're going to get into all the different language patterns. I put this together initially, and it was a 3-hour training just on the language patterns. So I'm going to give you a little bit of it today, but I wanted to go a bit deeper and really help you understand the structure of what's happening. And so without any further ado, let's rock and roll. And so first of all, when I read that book about 8 years ago, Sleight of Mouth, all of the patterns were based in the therapy, and there really wasn't a practical application for sales. And so over the last 8 years, I've been refining it. We've added some stuff because, again, NLP got some things right, but it didn't clearly translate. And so we have shifted that. And so you're going to get an understanding. And I want you to understand, first of all, objections are an opportunity for you to change their associations. Today, we're fully looking at the product side. Next week, again, we're going to get the time, money, and spouse and all of that language. But before we get into all the complexity, again, I don't want you just memorizing a bunch of stuff. I want you to realize that there's really two parts of a belief. This causes that, or this means that. And so I'm going to break down all the structure, and yes, you'll get this, Doc, at the end of the day. And so I want you to really understand and be able to listen for objections in the discovery part of your call. You're going to be able to hear where they have beliefs about moving forward, about time, about money, about your offer that are out of alignment, and you'll be able to reframe them in advance. Yes, you can use those after, but again, we want to do the best that we can to know what we look for before the objections come up. So what is an objection? It's not a no. It's not attack on you personally. First of all, you got to get that. I believe that any objection, it has to do with an internal conflict inside of the prospect. And really, part of my secret sauce in being able to sell people so well is some kind of tactical ninja, could even be called manipulative processes if they're not used for good. I have an uncanny ability to take any external objection and reflect it back to something that's internal inside of them. And so if they're judging me in my process, that's why we're starting with the offer first. Like, what is it you actually sell? Because sometimes they actually have objections about the thing. I am really, really great at taking their objections about my thing and making it about their internal. So they start to go internal and they start to question their own certainty. They start to question their own process. And so if you're here, you've all seen me say this before. Whenever I'm on a podcast or a webinar or anything, I often tell a little bit of my story. I saw Tony Robbins at these events turning around suicides, and I thought, wow, if this guy can turn around a suicide, I wonder if I can use these same techniques to turn around sales. And I was out there memorizing all these scripts, going through all these objection handlers. But I found something fascinating. And let me ask you guys this. Is it possible that two people can have the same script, say the same words, but get a very different result? Everybody says yes. So what we realize is if two people can use the same script and get different results, it's not just the script, it's the person. So right there, when I create that frame in all of my webinars and everything, I'm getting buy-in to the fact that it's not just the script, it's you. And so I get people right away looking internal, and it's basically kind of getting people to question themselves. And if they're questioning themselves, it's putting them more into the buying pocket because they're questioning their own skill set, they're questioning their own psychology, they're questioning their own confidence. And so that is allowing me to work internally, not just piling a bunch of tactics on them externally. And so you're going to get an experience of that here today. So I do believe that the best objection handlers get people to realize they have some kind of internal conflict. And here's what I want you to believe about these prospects. So you're not just trying to dump more stuff on them. I want you to understand that their objections often come from some internal conflict, meaning some part of them wants it, but some part of them can't justify it. It's, I want this, but anytime there's a but, they're not integrated. There's a part of them that is in conflict. And so they're not fully aligned, so they can't take action. I want X, but I want to move forward, but this is lack of integration. So I want you to think of when they have objections, before or after you make the offer, I want you to get really, really great, have this acute sensitivity to recognize parts of them that might be in conflict with the highest version of themselves. So they're torn, they're on the fence. Part of them is a yes, part of them is a no. When they have these beliefs in conflict, we need to recognize that we're dealing with the but this. Let's change the but. So first of all, objections are thoughts or beliefs or feelings rooted in fear or uncertainty that someone who is meant to have your offer is giving you. So key belief, they are meant to have your offer, but they have a thought or a belief pattern that's preventing them from moving forward. So understand that fear and uncertainty distort the mind. When folks are in fear, they make irrational or the wrong decisions. They simply don't have all the information. The information hasn't landed deep enough, or there's a misaligned belief. That's it. It's not about you. We are simply asking folks to move out of fear and uncertainty and into possibility. Know that there are folks out there that are talking to you every day that are meant to be in your program. That's where they belong. Don't abandon people who are meant to be a yes because of some little objection. So you need to believe that you have something that's of value to them. They have fear, worry, concern, and those often show up in the form of objection. Remember, it's not about convincing. Convincing is what folks do when they don't know how to persuade and shift beliefs or really dig into the limiting buying beliefs that would move them forward. So what terrible salespeople do is they force, they concern, they coerce, they lie, they manipulate, they overbear, they push, they collapse into like an order taker or discount themselves for their price. And this creates manipulation. So when you don't have the right tools, meaning the right understanding, you can resort to some of these, these scripts or these language patterns that are just meant to be rebuttals of just like, hey, you're wrong. What we want to do is really dig into the underlying beliefs. So realize this as you're using it, you're simply helping people to reintegrate and get clarity. This is an invitation to make a powerful decision with the right clarity and understanding by accessing the resource state, the emotion that will move them forward via thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. You are leading them to a powerful choice and helping people enrich their decisions. You are leading them to a belief that is best for them. So start thinking about it like this. What would they have to believe about themselves, about time, about money, about you, about the offer, about what's possible? What would they truly have to believe to move them forward? So again, know that objections are just part of the business. They're not wrong. They're not bad. Some of your best clients will have the most objections. Make sales simple. Sell them what they want. Know that they already want it. They have wants or desires inside of them, and we are just aligning our product with those desires. Address the thing that prevents them from getting what they want. So you must practice these tools. I'm going to break them down. You're going to understand a basic level understanding today, but again, you must practice and ideally practice and get feedback. So you're going to come up with some examples of your own over these next couple of weeks. You're going to post those in the group. That's going to be your homework. And there's going to be a lot. Today's the overview. Tomorrow or next week, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a homework today for sure, but next week, you're going to get a lot of it. And so what are you up against? It's not the prospect. You are aligning with them. You're not battling against the prospect when they have an objection, first of all. You are aligning with them to battle against the parts of themselves that have prevented them from moving forward, the limiting buying belief, that is stopping them from moving forward. You're in partnership with these people. You're in alignment. You're on the same side of the table. It's not you against them. So questions on their mind, is this relevant for me, or what's in it for me? Is what you're selling a new possibility that, what you're selling is a new possibility that would not be available to them without your offer. So the questions in their mind, you need to know the questions that are in their mind. Is this possible for me? The result. Is it worth it? Is it possible for me right now? What will others think if I do this? So realize that we all have a guardian on our mind. This is the conscious mind. Your prospect has a guardian on their mind, the conscious mind. Throughout the coming weeks, we're going to teach you how to bypass the critical factor and get more into the unconscious mind. So what you're hearing when you're hearing objections is often things in their unconscious that are bubbling up to the surface, and you're dealing with the guardian at the gate. We want to bypass that and create more emotional resources to move them past their own sense of fear. So the unconscious mind, they're thinking, their thoughts are basically, is what you're saying true? Do I agree with this? Is this like something else? So they're comparing it. Can I get this cheaper? Can I just hop on this call and get information and pay nothing? But what about this? But I heard this. It sounds too good to be true. I'm a slow learner. I don't trust myself. I don't trust you. What will others think? I can't make a decision. So we already know some of the limiting thoughts or beliefs that are coming up for people. There's only so many. And so as we're helping people create new meanings as it relates to the possibility, the meaning of investing, the meaning of getting their time back, we want to make sure that we're doing it in the right tone. Just as you saw Eli there on the call, super warm, super engaged, obviously had rapport. And because of that, when he asked questions, you saw the prospect go internal. Remember, it's not so much what comes out of your mouth. These structures provide a guide for you to lead somebody to access different thoughts and feelings by going internal and coming up with those answers. And so realize this, these questions and these frames are tools to help you access a different part of this human being and get them to create new associations related to what it means to move forward. And so the two types of objections that we're going to look at over these 2 weeks is one, write this down in the chat, vehicle specific. So this is product based. These are objections about your product. Next week, we are going to beat the bejesus out of the objections I know you guys want. But first, these will be easier for you to understand because I want you to understand the basic framework first, and this will be easier. So we're going into vehicle or product specific objections they have about your offer. So I want to make that really clear. Next week, we're going into what's called universal objections. This is time. This is money. This is support or partner or spouse. So those are the universal objections that apply to everything. But first, we want to start with product specific. And so I'm harping on this because I want you to really think, what are the specific objections that somebody might have about your offer, about your product? So we're going to start there first. These will be easier for you to relate to. And we're going to break down the structure of how this works. And so realize that something like even too expensive, if somebody says it's too expensive, that's not an objection. I want you to realize, first of all, that no matter what you charge, if it's $100, somebody might say that's too expensive. It's $100,000, that's too expensive. There will always be folks who say it's too expensive. So too expensive is not a belief. Realize this, they just haven't justified, had the proper comparison or the cost of an action framed in their decision-making process. So we need to give them something to compare it to. But even something like it's too expensive means nothing. It's expensive, so that means I can't do it. It's expensive, so that means I'm not willing to find the funding. That's a complete belief. Somebody just says that's expensive, that's not a belief. That's the first part of the belief. So we're going to break down the parts of a belief, and you're going to be able to get a fully fleshed out objection and a belief. You need to understand that. So you're going to ask different questions when you get resistance, ideally inside the discovery, but even at the end, we want to make sure we have a fully formed belief, a fully formed objection. And so you want to understand that first. So first of all, let's break down the structure of a belief. And this is key. So again, anytime you hear an objection, it is a limiting buying belief. It is a belief that is limited the resources within themselves they're able to access that would allow them to move forward. So if I put a gun to your head and I said, you need to find $10,000 right now, and if you really believed I would pull the trigger, you would access a resource state inside of yourself and you would do it. Now, we're not going to do that. We want them essentially doing that to themselves by reframing things inside of their mind. And so again, let's break down the structure of belief. If this, then that, or this means that, or this causes that. Not having money causes me to put it on a credit card. Not having money causes me to not take action. So there's different meanings, and different causes. And so we're playing with two different sides of the belief. You know, not having money, what does that mean? America is like $9 trillion in debt. Doesn't mean we just shut down the country. And so, so what does it mean? So I want you to think, that there's some belief that is misaligned that's stopping them. And Oliver, I know you started to really pace this, you're reframing the meaning for them already. And so just for simplicity's sake, we're going to break down a belief into two parts, and then we're going to add a third part here. But let's just start off with two parts for belief, A and B. So equivalence means A means B. A is the same as B. Or causal. A causes B. A causes B. So A equals this, or A causes B. So specific objections as it relates to your offer, or things you hear that are average. I'm not good at X. It takes too much time. It's too expensive. And so those are not complete beliefs because we need to add a meaning onto them. So these are one side of the belief. This is A. Someone says, let's take an example that I was breaking down the other day. And this is a belief that I had for a long time that my buddy Owen helped me out with. And so I wanted to play around with this one. So let's say somebody says, I'm not good at video. So say I'm telling one of my clients, hey, you need to post more in the Facebook group, get on video. And I do want you guys to do that. Hey, in order to be successful on online marketing, you need to do more video, but somebody says, I'm not good at video. Well, the next part of the belief means somebody might say, I'm not good on video. So that means I'm going to try harder. I'm not good on video. So that means I'm going to do a lot of them very fast so I can get good. Or somebody might say, I'm not good on video, but I don't care. I need to get them out there because this is so important to me. But then somebody else might say, I'm not good on video, so I can't do them, or I won't do them, or I'm not willing to do them, which means video doesn't work for me. So part A was the same in all of those, but what we're doing is we're changing B. We're creating a new meaning. So somebody says, I'm not good on video, so I can't do them, which means video doesn't work for my brand, which means it's not worth doing. It's too expensive. And if it's too expensive, it means that it's a waste of money. And so there's some beliefs that we can play with there. So we're going to change B. Somebody might say, I'm not good on video, but I don't care how people think of how I look. I'm not good on video, or somebody says, well, it takes too much time. So that means that I need to outsource it. It's expensive, but I know I'll be able to make my investment back within 3 weeks. And so what we're doing is we're looking at the meaning and we're shifting that meaning. So we must, again, get a fully fleshed out objection. You must know both sides. I'm not good on video, which means I can't do video. It's not worth my time. So full belief examples, I can't lose weight, so your program won't work for me. It's not the right time, so I'd rather wait. I don't feel like an expert, so I can't start an expert business. I'm not creative, therefore I won't have success in the program. Because it requires this, that means I can't do this. I can't do it online workouts, so an online fitness trainer won't work for me. I have too much on my plate right now. I don't have the time, and your program takes too much time, so I won't be able to implement. I'm not looking to lose weight, therefore this program is not a right fit for me. I'm not creative, so I won't have success in your program. It means this, or this causes this. If A, then B. A means B. So if I'm bad on video, it means that I shouldn't do video ads, which means I shouldn't buy your program. Being bad on video means I shouldn't do video. Sometimes you need to elicit the full objection. We want to fully flesh it out. So I might say, somebody says, well, I can't do X. I'm not good at selling. I say, well, have you ever tried? If not, why not? Or what makes you say that? That's my favorite question. When somebody says that they can't do something, or they have some struggle with something, I say, what makes you say that? So there's stuff objections versus universals. Again, I want to just reiterate, today we're going to go into some language patterns around objections with your stuff. And so an exercise that you're going to do for your homework is I want you to write down 3 objections, put in the chat right now, just so you guys remember it. Write down 3 objections that relate to your offer that are not time, not money, not spouse. What are 3 objections that people might have about your offer specifically and what it does? So identify a part A and a part B, objections that relate to your product specifically. So the first thing, these are like super tactical things that you want to do before you even get into all the language and linguistics, especially if you're an entrepreneur listening to this. I want to give you just a basic understanding of some like elephant in the room type stuff that you need to do right away. These first 2 tactics are just like common sense things that you need to do to help you with objections. And this relates to your offer, and this relates to case studies. And so could the objection, so if they have an objection about your program, it could be something like, well, I don't have confidence, or I don't have time. So sometimes that relates, it truly does relate to the implementation time of your program. And so for some of you, you might want to create some kind of bonus. So realize this, behind every question is an objection, and behind every objection, there is a question. Again, behind every question, there's an objection. And behind every objection, there's a question. So objection could be, you know, Eli, I want to learn the sales influence stuff from you, but I'm not a salesperson. So I might say, you know, we actually have a program. It's called Sales and Influence Training for non-salespeople. So I might even mention that, say, look, we have a module inside the course called this. So this is tactical things that you can do. If you're consistently getting an objection related to your avatar, or somebody says, hey, Eli, I want to be better at sales, but I don't have the confidence. So actually, we have an entire module on increasing your sales confidence. So you might want to create something like that as an entrepreneur. You might want to have things inside of your offer that specifically help with objections, first of all. So I want to be an investor, but I don't have the time. Well, we actually have a whole section on investment strategies you can do in just 1 hour a week. It's investments for busy people. So oftentimes you can create a bonus, a different course, or a resource to help people with their objections. And so here's the pattern. You're absolutely right, which is exactly why we also created, or why we give you as a bonus. Well, you know, I've got a partner and sometimes we're not aligned. You know, actually inside the course, we have a persuade your partner mini course to keep you guys aligned, to make sure that everything's on track. So some of you, this is high level, not tactical at all. You know, you might create a resource or have some kind of resource that helps them with their objection. All the most successful companies do this. So the first language pattern, super basic, and they're going to get more advanced. We're going to end today with metaphors, and I'm going to give you a ton of examples. Metaphors are some of my favorite things, but first of all, super basic. They say an objection. The first reframe is this, and put this down in the chat. Write down the positive reframe. The positive reframe. Positive reframe. Put it in the chat. They say an objection, and you say, well, and that's actually a good thing because. And that's actually a good thing because. Remember from session 2, we talked about the because frame. So other ways that you can say the word because: due to, for that reason, thus, causes, gives way to. Well, due to the fact that you have so much on your plate, it'll be great for you to implement the system because it's actually designed to save you time in the long run, which means you'll have a lot more time to do what you want. You know, we all struggle with time management, and for that reason, it's important to have a system to help you. I mean, we all know that the most successful people in the world don't have any more time than we do. They just have better systems of management that allow them to think and act in a more productive way. So correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think you could get more done if you had a better system for your X? So that's a tie down question. So so exercise here, you're going to create 3 positive reframes. And yes, I have some examples. So somebody might say, well, I want to do this, but my list is too small. Well, that's actually a good thing. Having a small list can actually work to your advantage because it allows you to be far more engaging and build better, stronger relationships with the people you have than someone with one of those big, huge, massive lists. You actually have a competitive advantage over the big guys in your niche, which means you're going to be able to create a deeper connection. So I'm changing the meaning of the belief inside the discovery that they once thought was a liability. I'm showing them how it's an asset. So positive reframe, super basic. Again, the language starts off, and that's actually a good thing because. So you're going to create 3 positive reframes as part of your homework. Everybody put in the chat, I got it. You got it? You got that? Make sure you put it in there. Got it. Awesome. So these are real basic. They're going to get more advanced. So how can you show them how the thing they think is a disadvantage is actually an advantage? That's a positive reframe. So again, I'm just a couple examples. I tried giving up sugar before and it didn't work. Well, that's actually a good thing because now you know what doesn't work, which means you're one step closer to finding out what does work. And that's why we're having this conversation. Example, the market is too saturated right now, which means I won't be successful in this kind of business. Well, that's actually a good thing because, having a lot of people in the niche means there are more and more people online looking for answers to problems with that. You should be more concerned if no one was doing X because that would mean it was a dead opportunity. And from what you said, that's clearly not the case. Example, I don't know anything about marketing. That's actually a good thing because most people have all these outdated ideas and you won't waste your time on learning all the stuff that no longer works. Example, I think I'm too old to X. I think I'm too old for something. Well, it's actually a good thing that you're a bit older because more mature people are actually better at X because of their life skills, experience, and patience. I'm too old to blank. Well, it's actually a good thing that you're older because I find when people have a bit more maturity in their life, they're better at this just because of their life skills and experience and patience they bring to the table. So you're actually in a great spot. So again, that's a great thing because. So this is again, super basic, but most of you don't have this. So this is going to sound almost like duh for some of you, but for some of you, I know 80% of you are not doing this. So this one right here, this is, again, super basic, but write this down in the chat. Write down the words case and point study. It's like a case study. Case and point mean it's a pointed case study. So share the case study of someone in the exact same situation on your call. If you don't have a case study, use yourself or some other reference. Having case studies and examples are key for your selling as an entrepreneur or a salesperson. So get some, make it top of focus for you. Even if you have to do pro bono work, meaning you take on somebody for free so you can get a case study, that's key. So here is the language pattern. You hear some concern in the discovery. Well, you know, Bob, that's actually what John thought too. So, or if I'm speaking to a group, I say, so some of you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'm too X to be able to Y. I'm too new to be able to make money at this. Well, that's what John thought too. When he joined NLP for Sales, he joined right after he had just lost a big sale and was in a huge slump. He was actually in a way worse place than you. And at first he was a little bit concerned when he joined the program that he just didn't have what it takes to sell, or that maybe it would be too much for him to take on. But he was quickly surprised when he realized that within just 2 weeks, he was doing X. He was closing more sales with ease, or he got the outcome that this prospect wants. So again, that's typed out, but the language pattern. So you want to have ideally some of these video testimonials and have some real stories. You know, well, you know, Eli, this sounds, you know, good, but you know, before we even get into kind of the offer, I got to tell you my situation. Here's what's going on, and I don't even know if it's possible for me to have an online business. Well, you know, Bob, I got to say that's what, you know, your situation is a lot like this guy John we just brought on, and when he joined our program, he was going through the same situation as you, and he had these concerns, and he thought this, but he was quickly surprised when he realized and he got result. So having some of these stories that relate to people who actually got examples or got results in your program provides proof, and i.e. certainty. It reinforces what you're doing, and people love stories and case studies. So you want to be able to have some of those. So it's simple but powerful. It gives proof and credibility. So you want to have case studies that handle specific objections. Susie, you know, you remind me of a client named Barbara. Barbara didn't know how to approach her spouse as well, but she did, and now she has these results. So if you can have video testimonials or like a tank page where it shows some of these, you can pull them up on sales calls, and it is huge. It is hugely beneficial. So real quick though, what's the difference between a case study and a testimonial? So people love stories. A case study is a story of a before and after. So let me tell you about John. You know, he had to close down his brick and mortar business due to COVID, and then he launched his online business. And now, after just 7 months, he's pacing to hit $1 million in revenue, working from home and spending more time with his kids. That's a case study. It's something super, super simple. And if you can reinforce it with proof, again, even on your sales calls, bring up and show a video testimonial, that will often help. I see salespeople do that all the time. A testimonial is different. A testimonial is a compliment about yourself. So Eli is awesome and you should buy his stuff, blah, blah, blah. Or let me tell you about John. That's a case study, case in point example. Case studies are more powerful than testimonials. So again, we're going to go deeper now to the structure of belief. A means B, A causes B. And so we also want to introduce C. And this will all make sense in a moment. So A is the first part of the belief. Somebody says, I'm not ready for this training. So some of you might be thinking right now, Eli, this is really complex. That's not a belief. So you might be thinking, I'm not ready for this advanced training, which means I can't do it. So that would be a limiting belief for each one of you. So I know none of you have that, but let's flesh this out. I'm not ready for this training, which means I can't do it. Well, you know, I'm not fully understanding this. So you guys are going to get it here in a bit. I'm not fully getting this yet, which means I need to be more committed to learning the process. So we want to replace B with C. Replace the meaning with a new meaning. Okay, so guys, I want to stop right now because I know some of you are saying, Eli, this is too advanced. I'm not ready for this level yet. I'm too new. I do it a different way. My business is different. I don't know if it'll work for me. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm just starting out, blah, blah, blah. That's part A. I'm not ready for this yet. So I'm pacing the objection. And if that's you, I get it. But I'd like you to consider something, that no matter your skill level, your revenue, your experience, it's really not a matter of you not thinking you're ready for this training. It's simply a matter of just one thing. It's really, I guess, just how committed are you or willing to be committed to learn the process? Because listen, if you're 100% committed to yourself and your business, well, that's really all you need to know right now to know you're in the right place and you can use this to move forward. So we're changing B with C. So somebody might have a belief, I'm not ready. I'm not ready is usually caused by something like no time, no money, new to the business, no product to sell, lack of skills, no niche, lack of experience, no following, small list, something internal or external. So external factors that are perceived are ones that are perceived to be out of one's control. That will cause a person to feel like they're not ready. So there's external and internal. So example, how ready you are or not isn't relevant. Listen, no one feels like they're ready, but that's why they always say you got to start before you're ready. All the reasons above that you just went through, everything you just said are just things outside of you. And anyone who lets their internal world dictate their internal world is never going to feel ready. Instead, what's going to allow you to push through that is your internal purpose, your reasons, your commitment level, and all of that must be bigger than any of the external reasons that would stop all those people out there, that stop all those weak people out there, uncommitted people who live those lives of quiet desperation. Realize this: success doesn't require perfect circumstances outside of you. In fact, no one you look up to, respect, or admire had that, at least not when they started out. They had to overcome all the externals. And the only way that you overcome all the challenges that you're going through in your business and life is by fully accessing all of the resources you have inside of you. That internal resource is simply called commitment. And it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. You should be asking yourself daily, how can I become even more committed to my goals? Because commitment doesn't require anything external. You can be 100% committed to anything you want right now, regardless of your external circumstances. So internal stuff, I want you to understand internal and external. External is all the stuff, no following, lack of experience, time, money, support, spouse, those are all externals. And so what I've gotten really, really good at, and we're going to have tons of examples for you, is framing it to their internal. Internally, it's their vision, what they want for themselves. Same thing for you guys. For you guys, internally, it's your vision. It's what you want for yourself. It's your values, what you think is important, your emotions, which is how you feel, and your choices, which is your free will. Those are the four things that create your commitment level to your goals. So what am I doing there? Just in that last example, I gave you a long, fleshed out example. Somebody says they're not ready. That was kind of a long scripted part, and I fleshed it out a lot just so you could see how I switched them from external stuff to internal stuff. And so what we're doing here, one of the first patterns I'm breaking down for you, it's redefine. I've mentioned it many times here. It's not that, it's this, and here's what that means. So that's called the redefine pattern. We are changing the cause and we're changing the meaning. If A equals B, then you replace one with C. The pattern is this. Well, it's not a matter of blank. It's a matter of blank, which means this. Eli, it's too time consuming. Well, it's not really a matter of how long it takes to master these skills. It's really a matter of how long they're going to be working for you for the rest of your life. And John, listen, even though it took me weeks to learn these skills, I have conversations every day that allow me to make more money and make more of an impact every day because I was willing to just learn them. Do you think having these skills available to you would be able to help you years from now as well? So that's a positive tie down at the end. Or I could end by asking with a consequence. You know, I have conversations every day that, you know, help me and my clients make more money and more impact every day because we're willing to learn them. Do you think you will continue to I guess, lose sales in the future if you just stay at your current skill set? So that was a negative tie down. Example, it's not a matter of having time, I guess. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's a matter of commitment and being willing to manage your time. So I'm taking it internal. If you were able to manage your time, do you see how that could actually save you years simply by having the right skills, system, or process? So I fleshed this all out. You're going to get tons of examples. You know, it's not really a matter of how burnt out you are or the burnout you're feeling right now. It's more a matter of how committed you are to your recovery. It's not this, it's that. It's not a matter of finding the perfect plan. It's a matter of having the courage to take the next step. You know, I guess, what is that for you? I mean, by being here on this call, you've already taken the first step. So it's really just allowing yourself to take the next step, just one step closer towards your goal. And I might repeat back their goal: retiring at 50, becoming financially free, losing the weight, finding true love. Example, it's not a matter of money. It's really a matter of making this commitment to yourself. There's me taking it internal. So you won't have to worry about money in the future. External, or example, I have a small list, so I can't launch right now. It's really not about the size of your list, but rather the quality of the relationships with those who are on your list. And I don't need to tell you, having a small list is actually a huge competitive advantage to creating quality relationships. So that is the redefine. Next one I'm going to go through relatively quick, and part of your homework is going to be examples of your own for each one of these. So counterexample. Counterexample looks for exemptions to the belief. I'll say it again, a counterexample. They have a limiting belief and we're looking for a counterexample. So it's when A does not equal B, when A does not cause B, or when B is caused by something else. So example, you know, people believe that you have to hustle like Gary V in order to be successful. So hustle, so in their mind, hustle causes success. So the question for each one of you is this: so when does A not cause B? Hey, can I ask you a question? How many people do you see out there hustling like crazy, A, but have almost nothing to show for it, B? So A does not cause B. How many people have you seen out there who are hustling like crazy, A, but have almost nothing to show for it, not B? So here is a personal, internal counterexample. Has there ever been a time when? So that is the language pattern right there. So somebody say they can't do something because it's always that way. Well, has there ever been a time where you were able to be confident? Somebody says, I'm not confident, or I don't have the confidence. Well, has there ever been a time in your life where you did have confidence? Or is there an area of your life where you do have confidence? And I'll often play with people. I say, are you confident that you can tie your shoes? Hey, what's your name? How confident are you about that? Or somebody might say, well, you know, I have no confidence. You sound really confident that you have no confidence. What allows you to be that confident? You sound really certain about your uncertainty. And so we can play with it a little bit, but I'm just wanting you to get in the frame. So it sounds like you believe you need to have a big list to have a great launch. Question is has there ever been someone who had a great launch with a small list, or, before all those folks had success with a big list, they first had to have success with a what? That's right, a small list. Is it possible that right now you're exactly where you need to be, and you just need to learn the process to maximize what you have now? Or have you ever seen someone with a big list only produce a small launch? A does not equal B. So it doesn't matter. So it doesn't come down to just the size of the list, does it? So these are things that we're doing to reframe beliefs. So here is an external, put this in the chat, external counter example. Have you ever seen someone who? Have you ever seen someone who? How many people do you see who still struggle even though they have experience? Can you think of a time where you had a lot on your plate, but you were still able to X, make time for yourself? This is the exception to the norm. If they say like, no, I've never thought of somebody, that's almost never going to happen, but you can use like a case study example. Well, have you ever seen someone who, let me ask you, do you think it's possible? There are plenty of people out there who X. Let me give you an example of one right now. So we're providing some positive reinforcement to the counter of what they believe. So be in agreement. So this only works if you're in agreement and in rapport. Your tonality is key. Don't come off like combative or argumentative. Remember, 93% of communication is nonverbal. So as you're using this, especially if you're reframing somebody's belief, make sure you're sincere, curious, genuine, empathetic, compassionate. Yeah, it totally makes sense. It's easy to believe that because, I mean, that's what we're constantly being told. They tell you this and they tell you that. They tell you got to hustle and grind. But let me ask you something. How many people do you know that are already out there hustling, but they don't have anything to show for it? So just hustling doesn't guarantee success, does it? I mean, it doesn't mean that's specifically what it takes to be successful. So what we're doing right there is we're saying there's an exception to the norm. There's an exception to what they think, and we're getting them to see that there's a new possibility. This is the no counter example. So I'm gonna crank through that. We got no counter example, and then metaphors, and then we're done. So bear with me for a few minutes. Are you guys still here with me? Yes, thumbs up if you're here. Awesome. So this, yeah, Jeremy does do it well. So we've got the no counter example. So this is the opposite of the last one. We had counter example. We're basically showing them how what they think isn't true. There's an exception to what they think is a rule. Here's the opposite of that, no counter example. Here, I'm stating a rule based on my perspective that I want them to believe as I lead them into my frame. This will reinforce what I said and it'll create buy-in. I'm creating buy-in to what I say, like what I say is a law. And I'm using this to create more buy-in with what I have to say. You will use this to demonstrate what you say is a fact. Here I'm saying no counterexamples exist. No counterexamples exist. What I'm saying is law. So here's an example. Having an irresistible offer is critical to your success in business. John, your offer just, it needs some work. I mean, show me one successful entrepreneur who has made tens of millions of dollars with a crappy offer that no one wanted. You can't. I mean, who's going to say, wow, what a crap offer. That sounds great. Please take my money. So I'm being a little bit playful with it. So here's another example. All high-power CEOs of the most successful companies in the world say there is one skill to learn above all else. It's sales. I mean, show me one successful business person who is not influential. You can't. And I don't mean they're good script readers. None of that bullshit. No, they obviously understand influence and have mastered the ability to persuade because they understand how to connect and how to drive human behavior. You already know this at some level. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. What we need to do today is just make this a priority, the priority it deserves to be, just like the most successful business people on the planet, by learning this critical skill. So if I'm like selling sales training, this is something I say all the time. I'm saying there's no counter examples. And the more they get buy into that, the more likely they are to buy. So here's another one. Show me someone who's fit and strong and healthy long-term and does not take care of their body or make it a priority. You can't. So I'm using this no counter example. And so this is the last one, and I'm giving a ton of examples here. And for each one of these, again, each one of these patterns, you're going to create your own example and you're going to put it in the group. This is the last one here. And this is, you know, a lot of fun. And then next week, again, we're going to add some more, and I'm going to give you all the exact language specifically for time, money, and spouse to really understand the structure of belief. But this last one is metaphors. And this, just so you know, metaphors are the most powerful. You want to get great at using metaphors, analogies, like these are ninja. And I'm giving you a lot of examples, and yes, you'll get this document. So these are the most powerful because this is how people learn. To make something relatable, it must relate to something they already know. They see the relationship between things. That's how we learn, by the way. I could give you a complex thing. I could say, you know what? You're already doing this. It's a lot like this thing you're already doing. It's just we're adding this and this and this, and we're changing this. So that helps people get it. Using a commonly known subject matter to describe or relate the new information to. The theme of the concept is the same, even though the subjects are completely different. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's a metaphor. So learning these language patterns and frames is like learning to drive a car. When you first learn how to drive, it took all of your focus and it seemed a bit overwhelming. Now you sing songs, you text, you talk on the phone, you drink your coffee, and you can do a dozen different things, and it's just automatic for you. You have reached the highest level of learning we talked about in session 1 called unconscious competence. You are so competent that you can just do it unconsciously. Of course, you could have just given up on driving after you first tried because it seemed hard. But then you realized without driving, there are a lot of places you'd never be able to go, or you wouldn't have, or you'd have to continue to be a burden to somebody else by asking them constantly, take me somewhere, and you'd have no control over where you go in your business or life. It's the same way with your communication. Once you're able to learn these skills in your communication is going to take you a lot further in life, and you will be in the driver's seat. You can get to that same level of unconscious competence in your communication if you're willing to train and really practice these patterns as well. So that was a metaphor for you guys. I related it, I fleshed it out, relating it to driving a car. So first, you want to pick a theme. So I'm going to give you like 12 different themes here. So building a home, starting a business is like building a home. You have the plans, the permits, the contractors, you got to frame it. You have the interior design. You have all the different parts. Flying a plane, riding a bike, marriage, dating, running a marathon versus a sprint, working out, baking a cake, giving birth. You know, it takes 9 months to make a baby, and you're trying to create a business and you expect it to be done in 1 month. Look, what you're creating, like having a business is like a baby. You take care of it. First, it's pooping all over the place. But once you take care of it and nurture it and give it the time, energy, and support and the priority in your life that it needs, well, this is a baby that's going to grow up to actually eventually support you and your family. So brushing your teeth, climbing a mountain, like a sports team. So here's an example. Look, I'm not a copywriter, but you and I know that not only speaking persuasively, but also writing that way is key to your success. Show me one top entrepreneur in your space who has terrible copy. You can't. They often spend tens of thousands of dollars on one page of copy because it is so critical to your success. So look at it like this. I'm a terrible cook, but I can read. I don't need to be a master chef in order to follow a recipe, because when you know the right ingredients in the right amounts and have somebody show you the exact timing of things, it becomes easy if we just follow a process. When you follow the process and follow the formula, you can create the same result, just like a recipe. It's only when you try to use trial and error and don't follow a proven process, you are forced to just go at it on your own. And how long does that take? Well, it can take forever. And that's why so many people struggle. It's because they just don't have our recipe. So that's me relating copywriting, if I was selling copywriting or persuasive language, to a recipe. Here's another example. Having the right sales process is like putting all the wheels on your car into alignment. If one wheel is out of alignment, what happens? Well, the car begins to shake. And it's annoying if you're going slow, but what happens when you start to speed up in your business? If all your wheels aren't in alignment and you start driving fast, the car starts shaking uncontrollably and the rest of the car starts to fall apart. And then you have some serious problems just because you had one wheel out of alignment. Running a business is like an orchestra. Every instrument plays a critical part in order to create a symphony. But what happens though, if even just one instrument is out of tune? So examples, and you guys hear me use this all the time, for your sales process, and I use this often in my webinars, I say, well, there's really, for overarching, there's like 3 parts of the sales call. There's the connecting phase, there's the engagement stage, and the commitment stage. And so people often say, hey, Eli, what should I say to handle this objection? I say, maybe you missed something up front. Think of it like this. Say you connect with somebody in a relationship, and then you ask them to marry you, and they say, I got to think about it. Well, you probably missed something in the engagement stage. So if somebody goes to get married and they call me at the altar and they said, hey, she says, I got to think about it. Eli, what should I say? I'm saying, hey, Oz, you probably missed something in the engagement stage. You connected, you have an engagement stage where you're deciding if you want to be committed in a relationship with this person. And it's usually a yes, unless you miss something in the engagement stage. So if you're getting this objection consistently, we need to look here, not just here. So that's me using a metaphor around marriage for the sales call. So last one, and then I've got, I'll send you one, you guys are on your way. So, have you ever really looked at your phone? What percentage of all the features do you actually know how to use? You spend all that money on a device for its extra features, but then never figure out how to use them to make your life easier. Most folks use this tool called a phone for pointless distraction. And it's a lot like the communication skills for salespeople. They have all this power and ability, yet they just use a few functions over and over again, just a few apps. And they never really get to access the full power of their communication. So, here's one last one. Right now, the economy is great, and I hope it stays that way, but history says that it won't. And we are bound to face tough times ahead. It's like we're all running a race downhill. But what happens when it comes time to run up the hill? Well, only the ones that have been doing the proper training are going to be the ones to make it to the top. Boom. So you hear some of these metaphors. So I scripted out a bunch of them, and I'm going to give you a ton more examples next week. But today was really just about giving you some of these fleshed out. I'm going to want you to read the document. Remember, I gave you some specific things. I gave you some examples to follow for metaphors. Metaphors are the most powerful. Get some case studies. These are like the basic things. If you're an entrepreneur, even if you're a salesperson, you might add some bonuses, something you can do to handle specific objections. Hey, I'm kind of disorganized. That's why we also have this. We did the redefine pattern. We did counterexample, and we did no counterexample. Like, show me something like this. You can't, where I'm getting buy-in because there are certain beliefs they need to have about you, your offer, about themselves, about investing in themselves. That must be law. And so you're understanding some of that, and you're going to really recognize, ideally with these, how to pre-handle the objection by understanding limiting buying beliefs in their language that we might need to reframe and change their perspective ahead of time in the discovery. Does this make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. And this is just the warm up. So Eli right here, I was telling them, I said, I want to make sure they really get it. So we're understanding the parts of it. I'm going to give you much more tactical stuff. It's going to be like a fire hose of tactics, but today's the warm up. So you're going to definitely need to do your homework today. You guys got it?
And so many great comments too. Thank you for all the stuff in the chat. One of the things I think Eli gave you is when you watch the replay, he did give you so many examples, which does a lot of the work for you. Again, the question always becomes, why does that work? And one quick thing to add on like the metaphors, because we're going to go deeper into the metaphors in the next few weeks. We'll have a full day specifically on a lot of those. But I think this is helpful because Eli mentioned metaphors, why metaphors work. The cool part about the brain and the way the brain works is if you use a supporting metaphor and they agree to that metaphor, like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. I mean, that's obvious. And they go, oh yeah, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. The brain kind of auto completes that your original thing that you were talking about is also true. The other reason metaphors are super cool is they will translate what that means to them. If you're using an analogy or a metaphor, they'll translate in their own words, in their own brain, what that means to them and why that's important to them. So you don't have to hope that you say the perfect word for the perfect type of person, right? They'll translate it. So metaphors are really powerful. There's so much around it, but you're creating like the full sensory experience. They could picture it, they can see how it works, in their own brain. So there's a lot of really cool stuff around there. The chat was on fire, so many cool stuff. Another amazing training. Nikki says, I love that. Another nugget, you're on fire. Antia says, amazing. So really good stuff. Before we go into any aha moments, which would be really helpful for us to hear. Again, today, a lot of what Eli was showing was just a ton of tactics. Like he is showing you why that works and he's showing you the beauty behind it, the structure, but also give you a bunch of examples too. So you guys don't have to do too much of the guesswork. So who is up to explain some things that stood out to them for today?
Yeah, so I'm giving you the examples, but I want you to know there's a belief in conflict. It means something else. So we want to train ourselves and realize objections or limiting buying beliefs, something's out of alignment. And we're there to change somebody's perspective to get them in alignment. And we do that. And so that's what we're doing.
It's cool. And next week, I will show you guys a live call of me doing this very quickly too, where someone is straight up telling me that amount of money doesn't make sense, it's too expensive, and there's a belief around it, there's some fear, and then you see in about 75 seconds, all of a sudden, she's a totally different person. And she's telling me why it's such a good idea for her to do this now. Just like the call I showed you guys last week, where the guy goes, don't even challenge me, I want the easy way out, don't even ask me hard questions. And then about 90 seconds later, he's teaching me, or about 30 seconds later, he's telling me the truth. He does open up. He has a fear of failure. So he does open up, even though he was just a second ago defensive. And then about 30 seconds after he tells me he has a fear of failure, I reframe what that means to him. And then he starts teaching me what a good perspective is, the perspective of successful people. He's a totally different person. You'll see me do this next week. So we'll share a live call on exactly what Eli's talking about. But Big Ben, you are up.
Yeah, Alec, there's a lot, but my biggest takeaway, the biggest like mind blower one for me is taking all the external things and reflecting them internal, like putting all the stuff that they say is out of their control and getting them to reflect it back and kind of get them into a different resourceful state. I have to watch this again because there's a lot there.
Yeah, I'm going to give you guys all of like the tactical things, and you're going to want to train on these like note cards, over and over again. I'm sure your intention is to. Isn't it more important than that? Well, really, when you look at the bigger picture, can I share with you what the most successful people do? So there's language patterns for all of this, but today I want you to understand what we're doing. We're shifting the structure of belief. Instead of just learning a bunch of language, you're going to get that next week. But I really want you to understand what's shifting and metaphors and analogies, adding perspective. And I fleshed out fully examples. I typed them out. You're going to see Eli do it. It's often, I want you to like see it fleshed out just so you can see it. Like if I'm doing a webinar, I'll do that. But usually when I'm talking, it's just a couple questions or like I pace, I agree, and I'll get buy-in on the other side of the meeting. Super simple. Awesome. Antia, what do you got?
I think the biggest one for me was okay, what did you say? I'm not good on video. And so like, normally I would like stop there, or, you know, like I'm not confident, or I'm not this or that. But that means, because also what I got was that they have to own that that's what it means. So it's almost like when they say, well, what does that mean to you? And it's almost like, right, they have the reflection to themselves now, and they have to kind of admit to themselves what that means to me. But I don't know, it also opens up sort of like this door that maybe they may even start to see already before I even ask the next question. They're like, oh, wait a minute, I make that mean that.
Yeah. It's and there's countless examples. You know, I've used before. People say I'm not good on video, not good at speaking. I say, well, that's actually a great thing. You know, positive reframe. You've heard of James Earl Jones. He was Darth Vader. He's in so many movies. He actually had a terrible speech impediment, really bad stuttering, but being bad communicator just meant he needed to work on it more. So, and you're not as bad as him for sure. It just means this. It's a great opportunity for you. Change the meaning. Awesome. Everybody give it up for Antia. And for Ben. Yay. Awesome. Who's next?
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Eli's. Yeah, real aha for me was when you squeeze the orange, what comes out of it, right? That was a big from just the previous thought. No, actually, it was quite interesting because I wanted to say it at the beginning, because what Eli S took us with last week really spoke to me in terms of the pacing and all that. There was like the cognitive ability to remove interruptions from the guy you're talking to, and then you flowed right into it, main Eli W, with Guardians. Like it just like, because what I've come to realize is that this is what this is about. There is 4 people on a call. Really hit me hard. So there are 4 people on the call. There's the 2 people talking. There's yourself, your own confidence, and the person that's been butting in the way of this person for a long, long time. So they're not getting the results. And once you understand that, it's not a case of, pushing them into something they want to be. It's more about a pull by pleasure, which is the safest lifeboat for them to really run away from the call or really kind of get on board. And everything is just kind of like positively reinforcing this as we go in. So like I can't help but turn up this call leaving stronger every single time. And exactly what Ben was saying, man, there's too much information. That Zoom video is going to be the rewatch of the whole course, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This one, everybody should watch this again. The one I do next week, you'll want to watch like 50 times, and it's going to be, so this is the warm up. So make sure you do the homework this time, because it's going to get, you're going to understand everything, but I'm going to give you all the tactics, but I really want you guys to understand why you're saying what you're saying, and things like metaphors, analogies. I know all of you have scripts and a lot of you are on sales teams, but if you listen to the top closers, I swear they're all doing this stuff, whether they're conscious of it or not. The more conscious you are of these patterns, the better you'll be, and you'll bypass the top guys quickly. Yep. I'm creating a positive meaning for you doing your homework, by the way, and I'm future pacing you.
It is noticeable, those that don't upload the homework, isn't it? I've got to change that. I really have to.
Do it. It's for your benefit. Awesome. Giorgio.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not that I always have or want to say something, but I'm really compelled to share because this is really awesome stuff. And one thing that I feel like saying is the positive reframe, which I believe is one of the most powerful tools that we have. It's really, I don't know, one thing that you probably guys said on the very first meeting, we also need to work with our own frames. So I think it can be very effective when we really feel that what you're just talking about is a good thing. Like I know sometimes I'll really get excited because they have their questions or concerns or fears. And man, that's awesome that you have that, because and I give them their meaning or a meaning that is more useful for them and moving forward. While other times I realize that people may have these tools and just really sound scripted. Oh, that's a good thing. They have no idea why that's a good thing. They try to come up with something on the spot, but you can also feel the energy that someone has. So I think that a lot of work is within us having the right frame of mind and emotional state when we jump on these calls to make the most of what you're sharing with us.
Yeah. And so sometimes we want them positively framed. Sometimes we do get them in pain, but around these objections or something that might keep them from moving forward. You know, the one I use all the time is, well, here's what's great. Well, here's what's great about that. It just flows out of me. I'm usually not even conscious because I've got an outcome we talked about. Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Anything else?
I think that is it. We'll drop some of the homework stuff in the Facebook group. We'll drop this replay within 24 hours in the Facebook group. And again, next week, you guys will see live examples of this and we'll break it down simple, step by step. Here's what we're doing. Here's why it works. Here's what Eli taught us. And we'll go through that. So it'll be nice and easy to follow. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys. Chat soon. Bye-bye.
Awesome. See you guys. Bye-bye.